I ask you to watch a video presentation regarding what is an audit. So I hope from that simple video presentation, you are able to understand what audit is all about. Now let us begin with the definition of auditing from the Philippine Standards on Auditing. So the PSA defines auditing by stating the objective of a financial statement audit, that is, to enable the auditor to express an opinion whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with an identified financial reporting framework. So, ang objective pala ng audit ng isang external auditor is to express an opinion. It is not to give a conclusion. So, bakit siya nag-i-express ng opinion? So, the opinion should be all about whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with a certain framework. So, kailangan niyang i-check kung ang mga financial statements ay in conformity, fairly in conformity with a certain standard na dapat sundin. So, yun yung basic na definition ng auditing. So, this is another definition by American Accounting Association. An audit is a systematic process of objectively obtaining and evaluating evidence regarding assertions about economic actions and events to ascertain the degree of correspondence between these assertions and established criteria and communicating the results to interested users. So, meron tayo ditong mga bagong terminologies that you have to understand dahil mga bago sa inyo, no? One is assertions. This one, assertions. So, ano bang ibig sabihin ng assertions? Assertions, ang sabi dito ay assertions about economic actions and events to ascertain the degree of correspondence between these assertions and established criteria and communicating the results to interested users. So, ang assertions dito, ang ibig sabihin niyan ay parang patunay, okay, or inaamin ng management na ang kanilang financial statements ay na-prepare, nagawa nila with faithful adherence to certain guidelines and standards. So, yun yung mga assertions na sinasabi dito. So, bakit kailangan ng auditor na, eto sabi niya, no, evaluate the evidence regarding assertions. So, parang halimbawa, ang sasabihin ng management ay, we assert that our assets are stated at its historical cost. Or sasabihin halimbawa ng assertion ng management na about existence. Halimbawa ay sabihin ng management that our cash as of the balance sheet date is at this certain amount. So, bilang auditor, hindi niya po pwedeng sabihin na, ganun ba? Okay, so hindi po pwede yun. Bilang auditor, kailangan niyang i-evaluate ang evidence. Ibig sabihin, kailangan niyang i-check, i-examine ang evidence. So, kailangan niyang pumunta into documents para niya para niya ma-obtain ang kailangan niyang evidence kung totoo na ang nakapresent sa balance sheet ng management is ganong amount nga. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng ini-evaluate ang assertions. And another special concern in this definition is communicating the results to interested users. So, ibig sabihin hindi lang ang management ang may kailangan sa result ng audit. So there are interested parties, the external and both the external and the internal parties. So from that definition, let us have the different mechanics of the definition. So number one is auditing is a systematic process. So auditing proceeds by means of an ordered and structured series of steps. So, ang ibig sabihin ay may sinusunod na proseso sa pag-audit. Hindi lang yung kahit ano lang yung gustong unahin. No? There is a standard process na dapat sundin dahil nga ang field ng auditing is a kind of discipline. So, kailangan siyang maayos din ang proseso. Number 2, an audit involves obtaining and evaluating evidence about assertions regarding economic actions and events. So, assertions are representations made by an auditee about economic actions and events. The auditor's objective is to determine whether these assertions are valid. To satisfy this objective, the auditor performs audit procedures and gathers evidence that corroborates or refutes the assertion. So, eto na naman tayo sa assertions. So, ang sabi dito, assertions are representations made by auditee or the management about economic actions and events. So, the auditor's objective. So, ano yung objective ng auditor ay gusto niyang malaman kung itong mga assertions and representations or these assertions which are representations made by the auditee ay valid. Yun yung gusto niyang malaman. Valid ba ang kanyang mga assertion? Ibig sabihin ay, totoo ba? No? So, parang yun yung papel ng auditor to verify the assertions by means of getting the necessary evidence. So, para nga naman niya masatisfy ang kanyang audit, so gagawa siya ng mga procedure para mapagtagpi-tagpi niya yung mga ebidensya at yung mga corroborating documents na para makapagbigay siya ng opinion kung ang mga financial statements ay fairly presented. Number 3, an audit is conducted objectively. So, nandito na naman tayo sa word na objective. So, objectively, that's the word. The auditor should conduct the audit without bias. Impartial attitude must be maintained by the auditor when evaluating evidence and formulating his conclusion. So, without bias, para makapag-render ng maayos na opinion, ang auditor, kailangan niyang maging objective. without bias, ibig sabihin from the point of view of an independent person, that is the auditor, kailangan wala siyang tinitingnan kung sino ang may-ari, kung kilala ba o hindi niya kilala ang management, but kailangan nakatingin lang siya doon sa evidence. And from that evidence, doon siya magbe-base ng kanyang opinion. Number 4, auditors ascertain the degree of correspondence between assertions and established criteria. Established criteria are needed to judge the validity of the assertions. These criteria are important because they establish and inform the users of the basis against which the assertions have been evaluated or measured. So, importante na pag sa isang uri ng audit, or if you are going to search for evidence, and after kailangan mong mag-render ng opinion, napaka-importante nitong number 4. Kailangan merong may established criteria. Kasi kung walang established na criteria, para saan yung gagawin mong auditing? Para saan yung gagawin mong pag-gather ng evidence kung wala namang naka-establish na criteria? Sasabihin mo na ba, pwede ba nating sabihin as auditor na hindi to fair, ito ay fair? In what aspect? In what criteria? Dapat ganon. Kaya ang established criteria is number one. Para magkaroon ka ng basihan. Number 5, auditors communicate the audit results to various interested users. The communication of audit findings is the ultimate objective of any audit. For the audit to be useful, the results must be communicated to interested users on a timely basis. So, communication is the main concern here, on a timely basis. So, kailangan ng proper timing. The three types of audit, so bali ang ating subject will be concentrated on the financial statement. Financial audit, okay, meron tayong apat na areas. The assertions made by the auditee, the established criteria, the content of the auditor's report, and the auditors who generally perform. So, yan yung sa financial audit. Sa compliance audit naman, anong klaseng assertions ang binigay o ginawa ng auditee or the company? Sabi ng ang assertions nila ay that the organization has complied with laws. So, nag-comply daw sila sa laws, regulations, and contracts. So, sinasabi nila na nag-comply kami. Okay. So, sa established criteria, andito yung ating iba't ibang uri ng batas, the laws, the regulations, and contracts. For example, ay yung environmental regulations. So, may mga regulations, may mga companies that they have to comply with certain environmental laws. Like, for example, if you are going to put up a refinery, a mining company, so may mga special regulations na kailangang sundin. Then, what is the content of the auditor's report regarding the compliance audit? Reports on the degree of compliance with applicable laws, regulations. So, ang report lang ng auditor is, nag-comply ba sila? Ano yung degree ng compliance? Is it 100% complied? 80% complied? 50% complied? So, yun yung content ng kanyang report. And who generally perform the compliance audit? Usually these are the government auditors or sa case natin sa Pilipinas, sila yung tinatawag nating auditors of the government or the COA, the Commission on Audit. Okay, as to the different aspect in the operational audit, what are the assertions made by the auditee? That the organization's activities are conducted effectively and efficiently. So, sinasabi daw ina-assert ng auditee in this type of audit na effective sila at efficient. Siyempre, ganun yung parang ang assertions ay positive, no? Hindi ang isang organization or isang company ay hindi magsasabi na poor ang aming organization's operation, hindi kami efficient, but they would rather say we are effective and we are efficient. Then what are the established criteria? Objectives set by the board of directors. So for example so yun yung criteria, no? Kung ano yung siniset ng board of directors. For example, ay nag-set ng goal ng this high of sales for the year. So yun yung kanilang i-check during operational audit if they have complied with the objectives set by the board of directors. And what is the content of the auditor's report? Okay, they recommend or only suggest how to improve operations. Actually, walang say ang mga auditor dito, no? They have only recommendations based on what they have examined or what they have observed according to the evidence that they have gathered regarding the effectiveness and efficiency of their operation. Ang tanong is, kailangan ba silang sundin? Walang ganon. Ang kanila lang is to recommend. Kung susundin ng management or hindi, wala na silang pakialam doon. Basta ang sa kanila is to recommend according to their findings. And generally, sabi dito, ang gumagawa nito ay ang mga internal auditors. However, kung gusto naman nila ng external auditors, pwede rin naman. So, that is for the operational audit. So, because we have at least different types of audit, meron din tayong iba't ibang uri ng auditor. So, basically, meron tayong tatlo. The external auditors, the internal auditors, and the government auditors. So, ang mga external auditors ay independent CPAs who offer their professional services to different clients on a contractual basis. And external auditors are the ones who generally perform financial statement audits. So, independent CPAs, sila yung tinatawag na mga external auditors. So, sa Pilipinas ay meron tayong dalawang uri ng external auditors, and those are yung mga auditing firm, yung mga naka-establish na auditing firms, whether may affiliation internationally or yung totally mga local lang na auditing firm, may maliliit, may malalaki. And the other types of external auditors are those individual practitioners. So we call them individual practitioners or individual certified public accountants. So yun yung dalawang uri ng mga nag-audit sa Pilipinas. So meron naman tayong mga internal auditors. Internal auditors are entities' own employees who investigate and appraise the effectiveness and efficiency of operations and internal controls. So, dahil sila kasi yung nasa loob ng organization, mas well-versed sila sa operations and internal controls. So, basically, sila yung mas madaling makaintindi, mas madaling mag-analyze what is happening in their operation and how effective is their internal control. So the main function of internal auditors is to assist members of the organization in the effective discharge of their responsibilities. Okay, then we have the government auditors. These are the government employees whose main concern is to determine whether persons or entities comply with government laws and regulations. So, kaiba itong setup ng government auditors. Ah, kasi kung bibigyan natin ng analysis, yung mga government auditors ay hinire din sila ng government. Yung Commission on Audit is actually hired by the government to perform different compliance audit sa lahat ng kanilang mga government agencies. Yung nag-audit sa ating mga local governments, yung nag-audit sa ating provincial government, the city government, the national government, the government-owned companies like banks and the like. So, yun yung kakaibang situation, no? Na parang kung titingnan natin ay parang walang independence dahil yung government ay nagpapa-audit sa isang agency na sila din ang nag-create o sila din yung nag-hire, no? Parang ganun lang ang dating. Samantalang kung ihahambing natin sa external auditors, ang mga independent CPA, for example, the SGV firm, so sila hinahire ng mga individual companies. Hinahire sila para mag-audit sa kanilang mga companies. Pero hindi sila kinreate ng mga companies na to. Sila ay independently established. So, yun yung paghahambing lang sa iba't ibang uri ng auditors. Okay, so we continue. The independent financial statement audit. So, the objective of an audit of financial statements is to enable the auditor to express an opinion whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with the identified financial reporting framework or acceptable financial reporting standards. So again, this is the objective of an audit of financial statement. So, to enable the auditor to express an opinion. Again, opinion ang kanyang ini-express and not conclusion. So, opinion whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with identified financial reporting framework. So, kailangan ng established and identified financial reporting framework. So, what is the responsibility for financial statements? So, ang main responsible sa preparation and presentation ng financial statements in accordance with the financial reporting framework is none other than the management. Okay, siya yung pinaka-main, hindi ang auditor, no? The auditor's responsibility is to form and express an opinion. So yan yung kanyang papel. Form and express an opinion on these financial statements based on his audit. An audit of financial statements does not relieve management of its responsibilities. So, hindi daw porket na audit na, kung meron mang tinatago ang company ay nare-relieve na sila sa mga ganong klaseng responsibility. Dahil ang audit ay hindi niya objective na hanapin ang fraud. Kung meron lang siyang makikitang fraud within the process, that is parang ano lang yun, extra work lang yun, no? Kaya niya kasi nasasagasaan yung fraud, it's because merong mga problema sa internal control. So hence, it is management responsibility to adopt and implement adequate accounting and internal control system that will help ensure, among others, the preparation of reliable financial statement. So responsibility daw ng management na dapat ay meron siyang maayos na internal control system. Kung meron siyang maayos na internal control system, doon lang siya nakaka-assure na ang preparation ng kanyang financial statement ay reliable. Assurance provided by the auditor. The auditor's opinion on the financial statement is not a guarantee that the financial statements are dependable. So, hindi porke at nagbigay ng opinion ang auditor ay pinapalagay o ginagarantihan ng auditor na ang mga financial statements na nabanggit ay dependable. Kasi hindi naman nga niya objective na hanapin ang fraud and error, no? Dapat sa pagganap niya ng kanyang auditing procedure, ng audit procedure, ay makita niya ang mga error na posibleng nangyari dahil hindi maganda ang internal control ng isang company. An audit conducted in accordance with the Philippine Standards on Auditing or the PSA is designed to provide only reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance, hindi nga sinabi dito na 100% assurance. So the word is reasonable. Not absolute assurance that the financial statements taken as a whole are free from material misstatements. So it should be a material misstatement, no? These are the inherent limitations to detect material misstatements. So, sa paghahanap ng auditor ng material misstatements, ay merong mga inherent limitations. Una ay ang use of testing or sampling risk. For practical reasons, auditors do not examine all evidence available. Many audit conclusions are made by examining only sample of evidence. Whenever a sample is taken, there is always a possibility that the auditor's conclusion based on the sample may be different from the conclusions that would have been reached if the auditor examines the entire population. So, dahil nga sample lang ang ginagamit ng auditor, hindi niya nasisiyasat ang lahat ng evidence na available. So, because of the use of sampling, posibleng ang ma-arrive niyang conclusion based on the sample ay hindi katulad ng conclusion na maaabot niya kung na-examine niya ang entire population. So, yun yung isang kahinaan o panganib. Another is the error in application of judgment or the non-sampling risk. The work of an auditor to form an opinion is permitted by judgment. So, hindi rin naman daw naiiwasan na gumagamit ng judgment in the process of the audit. So, kaya naging limitation siya para mahanap ang material misstatements. Number 3 is the reliance on management representation. Some evidence supporting the financial statements must be obtained by oral or written representations. So, these representations from management. If the management lacks integrity, management may provide the auditor with false representations causing the auditor to rely on unreliable evidence. So another risk. Number 4, inherent limitations of the client's accounting and internal control system. Although the auditor performs procedures to detect material misstatements when auditing financial statements, such procedures may not be effective in detecting misstatements resulting from collusion among employees or management circumvention of internal control. So, posibleng ang procedures na i-apply during audit ay maging hindi effective para ma-detect ang mga material misstatements dahil merong collusion among employees or the management itself circumvention of the internal control. And number 5, the nature of evidence. Evidence obtained by the auditor does not consist of hard facts, which prove or disprove the accuracy of the financial statements. Instead, it comprises pieces of information impressions which are gradually accumulated during the course of an audit and which, when taken together, persuade the auditor about the fairness of the financial statements. Thus, audit evidence is generally persuasive rather than conclusive in nature. So, posible rin daw na dahil sa nature ng evidence ay hindi totoong hard facts or concrete na evidence ang mag-gather ng auditor. So, sabi dito ay pieces of information. So, hindi siya buo, no? Information and impressions only. And because of this, parang ang magiging audit evidence na makukuha ng auditor ay parang ang sinasabi ay hindi pa ito sapat. Kailangan mo pang mag-deep further o mas marami pang ebidensya ang kailangan mo para maging maayos yung gagawin mong opinion. Should conduct an audit in accordance with Philippine Standards on Auditing. These standards contain the basic principles and essential procedures which the auditor should follow. And number 3, the auditor should plan and perform the audit with an attitude of professional skepticism, recognizing that circumstances may exist which may cause the financial statements to be materially misstated. So, professional skepticism, meaning yung para bang hindi yung tanggap ka lang ng tanggap ng information and without evaluating kung totoo ba ito o hindi. No? That is professional skepticism. So, pagka skeptic ka, palaging meron kang pagdududa. Yung pagdududa naman in a positive note na ibig sabihin ay kailangan mong siyasatin o i-evaluate further kung yung tinatanggap mong information ay totoo o hindi. The need for an independent financial statement audit. So, bakit daw ba nangangailangan ng isang independent financial statement audit? 1. The conflict of interest between management and users of financial statements. Management reports financial statements about the performance of the entity. Managers may be overly optimistic as to even provide outside parties with false financial information, and outside parties want unbiased, realistic financial statements. So, nagkakaroon daw ng pagkakaiba-ibang interest ang mga gumagamit ng financial statements. For example, syempre, yung management ay gusto nilang ipakita ang totoong performance ng kanilang entity. So, tatlong party ito na iba-ibang posibleng maging objective, no? management. Gusto nilang ipakita kung ano yung totoong naging performance ng company. On the other hand, ito namang mga managers na posibleng gusto nilang magpakita lang ng magandang information kahit ito ay false. Posibleng meron silang mga ginugol, no? Samantalang, eto namang outside parties ay wala silang magawa kung hindi maghintay kung ano lang yung lumalabas, but to their end, gusto nila sana ng isang unbiased and realistic financial statement. So, kung walang independent na titingin sa financial reports, ay posibleng itong tatlong parties na ito ay hindi magkaroon ng magandang uh, conclusion doon sa financial statement kasi may kanya-kanya silang interest. So, sa pamamagitan ng isang independent audit, ay nababawasan yung pagdududa ng bawat party kasi merong isang independent na tumitingin without bias kung ano talaga yung naging result ng operation, kung ano talaga yung kondisyon ng isang entity at a certain period. Expertise. The complexity of accounting and auditing requires expertise in verifying the quality of the financial information. Since most of the users of financial information are not equipped with the necessary skills and competence to determine whether the financial statements are reliable, a qualified person is hired by users to verify the reliability of the financial statements on their behalf. So itong content ng concern na ito for the need for an independent financial is ay na-encounter nyo nung nanood kayo ng what is an audit, no? So, hindi kasi maintindihan o yung mga gumagamit ng financial information ay posibleng hindi sila masyadong marunong na bumasa ng financial statements or the language of accounting hindi sila masyadong familiar. So, nangangailangan ng certain expertise and siyempre ang expert diyan tayo yon, no? Tayong mga certified public accountant. So, ang financial statements ay kailangang i-render na mas reliable, mas credible. So, sa pamamagitan ng expertise ng mga certified public accountant ay nagkakaroon ng mas magandang pagtingin ang mga users ng information sa kanilang financial reports. Another is remoteness. Users of financial information are usually prevented from directly assessing the reliability of the information. Most of the users do not have access to the entity's records to personally verify the quality of the financial information. So, this is true, no, na ang financial statements or financial information ng isang company ay hindi naman pwedeng basta-basta na lang tingnan ng kahit sino. So, sa pamamagitan ng independent audit, the audited financial statements, pag nilabas yan ng company ay parang sinasabi na you can rely on this information dahil ito ay dumaan na sa isang independent audit. So, yun yung purpose ng independent audit. Na kahit na hindi ma-access ng ibang users, ay merong paraan para sila makapag-rely sa financial information na kailangan nila. Then, the financial consequences. Misleading financial information could have substantial economic consequences for a decision maker. It is therefore important that the financial statements be audited first before they are used for making economic decision or important decisions. Okay. So, kung hindi bibigyan ng tamang information ng isang user ng financial information, na kailangan niyang mag-decide, no? For example, ay mag-a-apply ng isang malaking loan sa financial institution and magkaroon at bigyan ng financial statement ang financial institution na ito na kunyari ay maganda ang kanyang result ng operation where in fact hindi naman, no? So, based on that information alone, posibleng mapautang siya ng financing institution. So, yun pala wala naman siyang capacity to pay. So, yun yung mga consequences ng misleading financial information. So, there is a need for these users na magkaroon ng tamang information. Kaya, nangangailangan ng independent audit. So what are the theoretical framework of auditing? Audit function operates on the assumption that all financial data are verifiable. All balances reported in the financial statements must have supporting documents or evidence to prove their validity. If no evidence exists in relation to the financial statements on which the auditor is to express an opinion, there can be no audit to perform. So, yun yung mga framework or assumptions, no? Na kailangan daw, para ma-audit ang financial statement, kailangan merong supporting document o merong nag-i-exist na document na mahahanap ang auditor. Kasi kung wala namang ebidensya, ano nga naman ang iyong hahanapin, no? Walang audit na mangyayari kung walang supporting or existing document. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng number 1 framework. Number 2, the auditor should always maintain independence with respect to the financial statements under audit. So number 1 requirement here is independence. Independence is essential for ensuring the credibility of the auditor's report. The report of the auditor will be of little or no value to the readers of the financial statements if the readers are aware that the auditor is not independent with respect to the client. So, binibigyan ng importance ang independence kasi kung hindi independent ang tumitingin ng isang document ay posibleng biased, hindi objective. Kaya, independence is very important. Number 3, there should be no long-term conflict between the auditor and the client management. Short-term conflicts may exist regarding the application of auditing procedures and accounting principles. But in the end, both the auditor and the management must be interested in the fair presentation of the financial statements. So, posible daw na magkaroon ng mga pagtatalo in the short run. During the audit, syempre magkakaroon sila ng pwedeng debate, talakayan, bigayan ng kanilang mga sariling mga side or opinion regarding a certain rule. But overall, dapat daw tingnan ng management at ng auditor na ang pareho nilang gustong mangyari ay maipresent ng maayos, fairly presented ang kanilang financial statement. Number 4, effective internal control system reduces the possibility of errors and fraud affecting the financial statement. So dito ay highlight natin ang internal control system. The condition of the entity's internal control system directly affects the reliability of the financial statements. The stronger the internal control system is, the more assurance it provides about the reliability of the accounting data and financial statements. Mas maganda raw ang kondisyon ng internal control, mas maayos ang magiging financial data. So, ano naman yun, diba? Understood naman yan. consistent application of generally accepted accounting principles or the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards (PFRS) results in fair presentation of financial statements. We often use different criteria to verify the validity of an assertion. In the case of an independent audit of the financial statements, the criteria usually is the PFRS dahil nasa Pilipinas tayo or the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards. So, it is a need na dapat ay consistent ang application ng, so there should be consistency in the application of the GAAP or the generally accepted accounting principles. Number 6, what was held true in the past will continue to hold true in the future in the absence of known conditions to the contrary. Experience and knowledge accumulated from auditing a client in prior years can be used to determine the appropriate audit procedures that need to be performed. So, yun daw naging past experience ng auditor, posibleng kung ano yung kanyang na-encounter na mga errors or whatever findings ay nagkakaroon siya ng effect sa ginagawa niya currently, no? So, parang ginagawa niyang reference kung ano man yung kanyang na-discover in the past. And sinasabi kung hindi magkakaroon ng pagbabago ay parang patuloy na ganun din yung iisipin na pattern ng auditors during the audit. So, nakakaapekto ang past sa future. Okay. Next is an audit benefits the public. Financial statements are ordinarily prepared and presented in order to meet the common information needs of a wide range of users. These users who rely on the financial statements as their major source of information are the primary beneficiary of the financial statement audit. So, kaya nga tinawag na certified public accountant. The word is public. So, parang sinasabi na ang ginagawa ng mga certified ng independent audit or the work of the certified public accountant is more to benefit the public, yung mga gugamit ng financial information na lesser ang access sa financial information ng isang entity. So, sila talaga yung number 1 na concern. So, I am discussing chapter